Hey guys, it's Georgia. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If y'all are new here, welcome to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be reupholstering and painting over a jewelry stand that I use to hold all of my personal jewelry. It has like a little ring holder, it has two tubes, one to hold bracelets, one for necklaces, stuff like that, and I really do like how it's set up. But it's just very dirty. I got it secondhand from a friend of mine, and so I'm just going to be fixing it up and making it so it matches more with the other stuff in my room and the other projects I've done. So yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this, and remember, if you do, please like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Alright, so this is the jewelry holder that I'm going to be fixing up today. As you can see, it's just extremely dirty. Aside from being lopsided, the actual like wood part of it is not structurally broken, but there are lots of stains on both the wood and the fabric, and I just wanted to get rid of those so I can still use it. So to start this, I'm starting the same way I do all my painting projects, just a nice clean base coat. I'm just using some white acrylic paint, getting all over the wood so that we no longer have that like gray dust, soot, whatever it was, all over it. This project, throughout the entire thing, I did do my best to show you guys everything, but it is much bigger than I thought when I was planning out how to film this, so it was really hard to get into a lot of specifics on camera, especially with the way that my layout currently is. After I finish the front side, I'm just going on doing the back, making sure that both of the stands are fully white, making sure there's a nice base coat around the whole thing. Overall, just trying to get rid of any little wood stains that may have been present. I am painting the inside of these two little base parts. These base parts are probably my least favorite part of the entire project in all aspects, but I did end up getting it done, and like I said, just making sure that it's white so the entire thing matches, getting rid of any of those little stains. For each of the ends on the two rolls, I am going to be painting a different design on each one. I don't want to use this silver background because it's a little dingy looking and very bold, so just doing a base coat on that so I have a nice way for the colors to pop. This first one I am turning into a sort of like sunrise, sunset, starry night type of design. I was originally going to do a beach, but that was really hard with the size of the actual holder. And on this top one, I am turning it into the classic Evil Eye. So just getting the white circle on there, going back around with the blue. This one was really hard to do because I wanted the circles to be as good as possible. And like I said, the angles for this were all really weird. So just making sure I get that third white layer around. And after that one's done, just going in with the dark blue. I am using a different type of paint for almost every color in all of these projects, so they took various amounts of layers. Some were good at one, some have two, and some have a couple off camera as well. After I got that first base coat down though, just going back over the Evil Eye one to start, making sure I make that dark blue as bold as possible. Originally painting in between the groove because I thought I wanted to carry the designs over, but I ended up ditching that idea just because it was going to be way too hard with what I do for those little beads. After that part, going over the white, I did end up doing one final layer for this whole process off camera just to make sure all the colors were bold and all the lines were neat because I couldn't really see it too well through my camera. And just making sure that black dot in the center is nice and bold. Adding color on the sunset again just so that it's not as streaky and it looks more like a gradient than like three colors that are just sort of all together. Just bringing in the purple, orange, and pink all together. And after that, I counted up the little, what I call them beads right now, on each side and found out that there was enough to do a pattern with three colors. And these first two that I did use three colors for their, for the picture, and I made sure to carry that idea over to the other one. But for this first one, just doing a solid orange, pink, and then purple bead for each one so that those match the picture on the end, but it's not just a continuation. It was going to be really hard to do a continuation because there were so many little grooves and divots in these beads, and it was hard enough just to paint them all one solid color. This part I did do a lot of off camera, but I did the first 2 layers for you guys here. I did the same exact process with the Evil Eye, doing a light blue bead, a dark blue bead, and a black bead, making sure that all the colors were as deep as I could. This right here was the moment where I realized I needed to switch my idea of making the colors continue, because I knew the blue and blue were going to be right next to each other, and I just knew it was going to be easier, I think, the entire time. Making sure that all the colors are as bold as can be, and then just going over them, trying to clean up the lines in between some of the beads, trying to brighten the colors, and there is a little bit of a lip underneath the bead in between the beaded part and the actual band, so I was just trying my best to get under that so it is fully covered. Doing the same thing for this Evil Eye one, getting a nice light blue bead, making sure the dark blue beads follow the same pattern, and I just used the black at the end of this one because I knew that one was going to go over any other color that I had put, just because it is such a dark and full coverage color. With those done, I realized the sunset was really boring just looking like that, so instead of adding a beach, I did just add a couple little stars. My star design was not the best because my paintbrush I was using was not the best, and like I've said multiple times before, this video's angle was just so frustrating to work with, so I am happy with how it turned out though. With those all done, I am doing the other side. I forgot to paint me doing the base coat for those, but with the base coat done, I'm going to start on the lower one again. For this one, I'm doing a similar like sky type design, but I'm going to be doing a purple gradient for the background for this one and adding a moon in the front. So just making sure I get that gradient down as best as possible. The dark purple was much thinner than the light purple, so that was a little annoying. And for this top one, I'm just going to be doing a pink base coat for the moment because I'm putting a single design on there. Going over with round 2, trying to make sure that it's clear that there is dark and light purple and not just light purple on this bottom one, and just making sure the pink isn't streaky so it looks just nice and fully covered. After that, I'm going in for the designs. So for this bottom one, I am doing a little moon, so layer number 1, as usual, just getting the color down, trying to get the design as clear as it possibly can. I'm really bad at painting moons still, but I'm hoping to get better because I do them so much, and just adding some stars to that. For this top one, I wanted to do a crystal because a lot of my jewelry does involve crystals or some form of like what people call like hippie witchcraft stuff. So I'm just doing a little teal crystal, just getting the base down. Once that's done, they're dry, getting the moon fully covered so it is clearly white and not super streaky. Fixing up the line as best as I could with that, and making sure that the inside of this crystal is as thick and full as possible so you don't have the pink coming through. After both of these dried, final step on these designs are adding details. So I'm just adding the little gray gradients. I did this in a different painting that I had done off camera for someone really important to me, and I just really like how they look. For the crystal one, just adding the little lines to make it clear that it's a crystal. They did not look how I originally planned for them to look at the end, but I knew trying to fix it was just going to make them look worse. And like I said previously, I'm just going to be finishing up by doing the same exact thing. So for the moon design, the 3 colors I'm going to be alternating are light purple, dark purple, and the gray that is used for the craters in the moon. I did mess up on that one little purple one, but it was a really easy fix and it was still wet. For the crystal one, going to be doing the nice pink, the teal, and the black, just again so they match up. And I also tried to choose the designs for this side based on how well they would go with the other side, because I didn't want to have something that completely clashed on the two opposite ends. So I think doing the black on the top really did bring the entire thing together. Same with the purple on the bottom, brings out the purple from the other side. After first coat is done and dry, going in trying to fix up all the lines as best as possible. Again, a lot of this was done off camera because of the weird angle and how small they are, so I had to be very, very particular. It was hard to do that while also making sure I stayed in frame. Doing the same thing for one last time on this top one, just trying to get everything nice and clear. I really did like those colors I used on the top because they were all pretty full coverage, so that was just cleaning lines up. So just going over with puffy paint on this part, this is where I finally decided what to do in between the flat part and the beaded area, just because I knew I didn't want to do a continuation, like I said, because it was so weird texture. So the white, while it doesn't look the best, it is consistent throughout the entire thing, and I think it does look a lot better than trying to do a different color and trying to paint more with those weird little ridges. Once those are dry and painted, just going in with that matte Mod Podge, just because while I know it's not going to chip super well because it's not going to be moving, I do know that some of the jewelry might nick it the wrong way and it'll start to chip off of there. I don't want that to happen. I do move it between my shelves sometimes, so I didn't want it to scuff, anything like that. So just this extra layer of protection really just helps and makes me feel more confident actually using my pieces. For this base, I knew I wanted to do something because it was really boring, as you can see, and there are a lot of holes. I think my friend who I got it from, I think that her dad might have made this for her, but I'm just going to be covering that with diamonds. So I'm taking a lot of rhinestones and just sort of making a line with them, making it go around the entire thing. This process took about an hour in real time, but I do think it was worth it because it just looks much nicer, and it's also really smooth and fun to like run your hand across it. It just feels really satisfying, and I think it looks a lot better than just leaving it plain white. Now that the painting is done, it's time to reupholster. So I'm just going to measure out, make sure that it is the right width so I can still do a little bit of a hem, and cutting that in half to make sure I have enough for each of the tubes. I'm just going to be measuring one last time and then gluing on the sides to give it some form of a hem without sewing. I'd already put in a lot of work to this project and I really didn't feel like having to get out my sewing machine. Once it's the right size, I did cut a little bit of a hole for where the stand goes, just gluing around the sides and pushing it in. Both of these were really hard and annoying to do. The second one does not look nearly as good as the first, and the first is still not the best, but just holding everything in place with those hair ties. It was really hard to get a seam on the bottom. But same thing as the first one, just trying to give it a nice hem on both sides, gluing the fabric down so it doesn't fray. This one was really hard to get the angle on, and that's why it was probably so bad, because the angle where the little like stem goes clearly was not where the hole I had made was. But again, putting it down, doing my best I could with this project. It looks good with jewelry on it, and that's all I really care about, and just holding everything in place. Cutting out one piece of fabric just sort of to put in this little dish part. I'm not really sure exactly what this was originally intended for. It does not look great, but I do put a little like jar in it to hold earrings and bracelets, so I didn't need it to be perfect, and I still think it looks better than that yellowing fabric that was already in there, even though it's not perfect on the one edge. For the ring holder, I'm cutting to make sure that it's the right width, but leaving the fabric as long as possible. It was about 2 feet piece of fabric. Once I hemmed those edges and just made sure it was the right size, I did put glue down, and using a flathead screwdriver, just pushing it into all of the little layers so it can still be used as a ring holder. Originally I thought I could pull out the pieces of foam, but they were in there really, really well and they just were not budging, so I just ended up pushing it through with this, and it honestly didn't turn up that bad. once I got to somewhat the end, just cutting that and tucking in that last little bit of fabric. And with that done, I've realized that I can't leave the hems like this, but I didn't want to go back, undo it, so I'm just taking some black ribbon, tying a little knot on the end of them, and turning it around. While it's not perfect, it does give it a nice clean finish, and I can take the elastics off because this was after it had dried. Doing the same thing on the necklace rim, and once the elastics are off, we are finished. I do think it looks much nicer than it did at the start, but like I said before, I do think it could have been better because it was such a weird angle. But yeah, I hope you guys did like this video. I know it was kind of all over the place, but if you did like it, please remember to like, comment if you want more like this, and subscribe if you want to see just more from me in general. All my other social medias are linked down below, as well as my Etsy and Mercari shop if you want to buy something that might be in a future video or may have been in a previous videos. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye!